I never believed one small moment could destroy so much of a person's confidence. I always thought humiliation was something that happened in movies, something dramatic, something exaggerated, not something that would happen to me, not in front of the one person I cared about most. Her name was Valentina. The first time I saw her, I didn't even speak. She was standing near the window in our college cafe, laughing softly with her friends. Nothing special about her clothes, nothing loud about her behavior, but something about her presence made the room feel quieter. For weeks, I noticed every small detail. The way she tied her hair when she was nervous, the way she bit her lip when she was thinking, the way she smiled when she didn't want people to know she was happy. I never told anyone I liked her, not my friends, not my family, not even myself properly, because liking someone makes you vulnerable, and I had spent my whole life trying not to be vulnerable. Then there was her, the girl who humiliated me. Her name was Camila. She was confident, beautiful, loud in a charming way. She had the kind of personality that filled a room. People listened when she spoke, people laughed when she joked, and for some reason, she had always enjoyed making me the center of her jokes. At first, it felt harmless. Small comments, little laughs, light teasing. I told myself, she's just joking. But deep inside, I knew something was wrong. Some people joke to connect, others joke to control. Camila belonged to the second kind. Still, I stayed quiet because I was shy, because I didn't like conflict, because I believed ignoring things made them disappear. I was wrong. The day everything changed was a Friday afternoon. There was a small gathering at our friend's house. Nothing fancy, just music, snacks, and too many people in one living room. And Valentina was there. That was the first time she had ever come to a place where I was. I remember standing in front of the mirror before leaving, fixing my hair again and again, telling myself not to act nervous, telling myself not to say anything stupid. I didn't want to impress her. I just didn't want to embarrass myself. When I arrived, she was sitting on the couch talking to two girls. She looked up when I entered, and she smiled. Not a polite smile, a real one. My heart forgot how to work. For the first hour, everything went perfectly. We talked a little, just small things. Classes, music, plans after graduation. She listened when I spoke. That alone felt like a miracle. Then Camila arrived. She entered like she owned the place. Loud greeting, big smile, instant attention. At first, she didn't even notice me, and I was grateful for that. But later, when everyone gathered in the living room, she finally looked at me, and her smile changed. Not friendly, not warm, sharp, dangerous. She came and sat close to me, in front of everyone, including Valentina. I tried to stay calm, told myself, she won't do anything today. I was wrong again. It started small. She made a joke about my clothes. People laughed. I smiled. She joked about my haircut. More laughter. I smiled again. And then she leaned back, looked at Valentina, and said loudly, "Do you know he once told me he practices romantic speeches in front of the mirror?" The room went silent for half a second. Then laughter exploded. My face burned. That wasn't even true. I had never told her that. She continued, "He acts shy, but trust me, he thinks he's some kind of love expert." More laughter. People were watching me now, waiting for my reaction. I tried to laugh it off, tried to look confident. Then she delivered the final line, the one that changed everything. She pointed at me and said, "Honestly, if he ever told me he had a crush on someone, I would feel sorry for that girl." The room froze. Slowly, painfully, all eyes turned to Valentina, and then to me. I didn't look at her. I couldn't, because I was afraid of what I might see in her eyes. Pity? Disgust? Disappointment? My hands were shaking, my ears were ringing. I wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. Camila smiled, satisfied, as if she had just won a game. I forced a small laugh, nodded, acted like it didn't hurt, but inside something collapsed. In that one moment, I lost my confidence, my dignity, and any hope I had with Valentina. A few minutes later, I left. No dramatic exit, no angry words. I just said I felt tired. Outside, I stood alone on the street for almost 10 minutes, breathing, trying not to cry, trying not to scream, trying not to hate. That night, I replayed every second, again and again. Her words, the laughter, the silence, Valentina's face. And slowly a thought formed in my mind. Not anger, not rage, something colder, something calmer, a decision. I didn't want to fight Camila. I didn't want to insult her. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted one thing. For the world to see her the same way I finally did. And that was the night my revenge quietly began. After that night, nothing felt normal again. I went back to my room and lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling for hours. I didn't open my phone. I didn't answer messages. I didn't even change my clothes. My mind kept playing the same scene on repeat. Camila's smile, the laughter in the room, her final sentence. If he ever had a crush on someone, I would feel sorry for that girl. Those words cut deeper than any insult I had ever heard. Not because they were clever, but because they were spoken in front of the one person I had never wanted to disappoint. The next morning, I woke up feeling smaller, not physically, emotionally, like the world had pushed me down one step and expected me to stay there. At college, everything felt different. People greeted me the same way, classes went on the same way, but I felt exposed, as if everyone knew, as if everyone was secretly laughing again. When I saw Valentina in the hallway, I turned away. Not because I hated her, because I was ashamed. I didn't know what she thought of me now. I didn't know if she believed Camila. I didn't know if she felt sorry for me. And sometimes, pity hurts more than rejection. For days, I avoided everyone. I ate alone, I walked alone, I sat in the back of every class. At night, I asked myself one question again and again. Why didn't I say anything? Why didn't I defend myself? Why didn't I stop her? Why did I let her humiliate me like that? The answer was simple. Because I was afraid. Afraid of conflict, afraid of being rude, afraid of losing people. And that fear had cost me my self-respect. Something else slowly became clear. This was not the first time Camila had done this. When I looked back, I remembered other moments. Other people she joked about, other people she embarrassed, other people who smiled, just like I did. She always chose someone quiet, someone kind, someone who wouldn't fight back. And I realized something painful. She didn't humiliate people by accident. She did it on purpose. Not to be funny, but to feel powerful. That realization changed everything. I stopped crying. I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and I started observing. From a distance. Silently. I watched how Camila behaved with others, how she changed her personality depending on who she was talking to, sweet with professors, charming with boys, cruel with people she thought were weak. I noticed how often she lied, small lies, harmless lies, but lies that showed her real nature. I noticed how she talked behind people's backs, how she pretended to be loyal, how she collected secrets like trophies. And slowly, a strange calm entered my mind. Not anger, clarity. For the first time, I understood something important. This was not about revenge. This was about truth. I didn't want to destroy her life. I didn't want to hurt her family. I didn't want to embarrass her the way she embarrassed me. I just wanted one thing: for everyone to see who she really was. But I knew something else too. If I acted emotionally, I would lose. If I confronted her directly, she would twist the story. If I rushed, she would become the victim. So I made a decision. I would say nothing. I would complain to no one. I would act like nothing had happened. And that was the hardest part. The next time I saw Camila, I smiled. A normal smile. She looked surprised, then relieved. She came to me and said, "Hey, about that night, I was just joking." I nodded, said, "It's okay." She laughed, confident again, thinking she had won. From that day on, I became someone new. Not on the outside, on the inside. I listened more. I spoke less. I remembered everything. Every lie, every secret, every contradiction. I didn't take notes. I didn't record anything. I just watched, carefully, quietly, patiently. Weeks passed, and something unexpected happened. Valentina started talking to me again. Not about that night, about normal things: homework, movies, life. She never mentioned the humiliation, but I noticed something in her eyes: doubt, as if she was not fully convinced by Camila's words, as if she sensed something was wrong. That gave me hope. Not hope for love, hope for justice. One night, sitting alone at my desk, I finally understood my true plan. I would not attack Camila. I would not insult her. I would not expose her with lies. I would do something much more dangerous. I would let her expose herself. And from that moment on, every move I made was no longer about healing. It was about preparing for the perfect moment when the truth would speak louder than I ever could. From the outside, nothing about me had changed. I still went to class. I still talked to my friends. I still laughed at jokes. But inside, I was living a different life. A quieter one. A more careful one. I had made one rule for myself: never act like an enemy. Always act like a friend, because enemies make people alert. Friends make people careless. So I became friendly with Camila again. Not too close, not too distant, just close enough to be trusted. When she joked, I laughed. When she complained, I listened. When she shared stories, I nodded. She slowly relaxed around me. She thought I had forgiven her. She thought I was weak. That was my greatest advantage. I began to notice patterns. The way she changed her stories depending on who was listening. The way she exaggerated small things to make herself look important. The way she borrowed sympathy when she needed attention. Most of all, I noticed how easily she slipped. One day, she said she hated gossip. The next day, she was spreading rumors. One day, she claimed she valued honesty. The next day, she lied without blinking. I didn't interrupt. I didn't correct her. I just remembered. At the same time, I started rebuilding myself. Quietly. I joined a small debate club. Not to become famous, just to learn how to speak calmly under pressure. I forced myself to talk more in class, not loudly, clearly. I started going to the gym again, not to look impressive, to feel strong, because revenge without strength is just anger, and I didn't want anger. I wanted control. Weeks passed, and then, by accident, the first door opened. We were working on a group project, Camila, me, and 2 other students. One afternoon, when the others left early, she stayed behind. She looked tired, less confident than usual, and for the first time, she complained honestly about her family, about money problems, about how afraid she was of failing. I listened, not pretending, truly listening. She spoke for almost 30 minutes, and in that moment, she did something dangerous. She told me a secret. Not a big one, but an important one. Something she had lied about to many people. Something that, if revealed, would damage her reputation. She ended by saying, "Promise you won't tell anyone." I looked at her, and I said, "I promise." And I meant it, because I didn't plan to tell. I planned to let her tell it herself. From that day, she trusted me more. She started sharing more stories, more complaints, more lies. Sometimes she contradicted herself in the same conversation, and slowly I saw the full picture. Camila lived in fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being ignored, fear of losing control. That fear was the reason she humiliated others, not confidence, weakness. And weakness always leaves traces. I began to understand her biggest weakness. She loved attention. Not positive attention, any attention. She loved to be admired in public, loved to look perfect, loved to control the story. So I started doing something very simple. I encouraged her. When she talked about herself, I showed interest. When she wanted to speak in public, I supported. When she planned social events, I helped. Slowly, she placed herself in the center of everything, just where I needed her. At the same time, I worked on something else, my reputation. Quietly. I helped classmates with assignments. I volunteered for small projects. I spoke politely to professors. Not to become popular, to become trusted. Because in the end, revenge is not about hurting someone. It is about who people believe. One evening, while walking home, I realized something important. I was no longer doing this because of Valentina. I was no longer doing this because of humiliation. I was doing this because I had discovered a dangerous truth. People like Camila never stop hurting others unless someone forces the truth into the light. And I knew something else, too. The moment was coming. Not soon, but surely. There would be a public event, a presentation, a gathering, a celebration. Some place where Camila would want to shine, some place where she would talk too much, some place where she would forget that lies collapse when spoken in front of the wrong audience. That night, I wrote one sentence in my notebook. Not a plan, a reminder. Do not rush. Do not hate. Let her build her own stage. Because the best revenge is not a scream. It is a quiet step back while someone walks confidently towards their own downfall. And I knew, with calm certainty, the trap was no longer something I was building. It was something she was building for herself. The moment I had been waiting for finally arrived in a very ordinary way. One afternoon, a notice appeared on the college board. There would be a public student forum at the end of the month, a small event. Students would speak about leadership, success, and personal growth. Professors would attend. Many students would attend. And more importantly, Valentina would attend. When I saw Camila reading the notice, her eyes lit up. This was exactly the kind of stage she loved. Public, respectable, full of attention. That same evening, she announced proudly to our group, "I'm thinking of giving a speech, something inspiring." Everyone praised her. Everyone encouraged her. And I did too. I smiled and said, "You should definitely do it. People will love you." That was the moment the final phase began. From that day on, everything I did had one purpose: to make Camila feel safe and to make her feel important. I helped her prepare, not the content, the confidence. I listened to her practice speeches. I told her which parts sounded powerful. I told her which stories impressed people. I even suggested she include a section about honesty and character. She loved that idea because irony is invisible to people who lie easily. As the event got closer, something else happened. Camila began telling different versions of the same story to different people, sometimes about her family, sometimes about her achievements, sometimes about her struggles. She wanted to look perfect from every angle, but perfection requires consistency, and she was losing that. Quietly, I started doing something very careful. I didn't collect evidence. I didn't record conversations. I did something smarter. I connected people. In small ways. I encouraged classmates to work together. I suggested group discussions. I brought people from different circles into the same conversations, people who had heard different versions of the same story. I didn't say anything. I just created situations where people would talk. And slowly, I saw it happening. Confused looks, small pauses, raised eyebrows. Nothing dramatic, just doubt. At the same time, I prepared myself, not with revenge, with calm. I practiced speaking in front of a mirror, not to attack, to stay steady. I trained myself to speak slowly, to breathe properly, to control my voice, because I knew something important. The one who stays calm controls the room. The week before the forum, Camila was everywhere. Posters with her name, friends congratulating her, professors encouraging her. She was becoming the star of the event. And with every compliment, she became more careless. One afternoon, in front of 3 students, she told a story. A story she had once told me privately. But this time, she changed an important detail. A detail that contradicted what she had told before. I saw the confusion on one girl's face. Later that day, that same girl quietly asked me, "Didn't Camila once say something different about that?" I looked at her, and I said something very simple. "I am not sure. Maybe she explained it better another time." I planted no lie. I planted only doubt. The night before the forum, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was nervous, because I was thinking about power, about truth, and how easily people believe the one who speaks the loudest. I didn't know exactly how the moment would come. I only knew 3 things. First, Camila would talk about honesty. Second, she would talk about her own character. Third, she would say too much, because people who lie always believe they can control every detail. The morning of the event, the hall was full. Students, teachers, guests. Valentina was sitting in the second row. I saw her when I entered. She smiled politely. Nothing more. Camila was backstage, excited, confident, radiant. Before she went on stage, she hugged me and said, "I'm nervous. Wish me luck." I looked at her and I said, "You'll do great. Just be yourself." That was not sarcasm. That was the most honest sentence I had said to her in months. When she walked onto the stage, the room applauded. She began perfectly. Strong voice, beautiful words, inspiring stories. People listened. People nodded. People admired her. Then she reached the part about honesty. And that was when I knew. The stage was ready. The audience was ready. And Camila, smiling confidently under the lights, was standing exactly where she had built herself to stand, at the very center of her own story, unaware that the smallest contradiction, spoken at the wrong moment, in front of the right people, is sometimes enough to make a perfect image begin to crack. Camila stood under the lights, confident and smiling. Her voice filled the hall. She spoke about struggle, about discipline, about becoming a better person. People listened carefully. Then she reached the part about honesty. She said, "Honesty is the foundation of character. Without it, success is meaningless." And then she told a story. A story about her past, about a difficult time in her life. A story she had told many people before. But this time, she changed it. Again. She mentioned a scholarship she claimed she had earned alone, a project she said she had led by herself. And I saw it. The moment. In the second row, a professor frowned. Two students exchanged looks. One girl quietly shook her head, because they had heard different versions. Camila continued, unaware. Then, during the short question session, something happened that I had not planned. A student raised her hand. Calm voice, simple question. "You once said 3 people worked on that project. Today, you said you did it alone. Which one is true?" The room went silent. Camila laughed nervously. "Oh, I mean, I was the main one." Another hand went up. A boy spoke. "But last month, you told me you joined the project late." More silence. Her smile began to weaken. She tried to explain. Words came faster, stories became messy. And then the professor spoke. "Camila, accuracy matters when you speak about integrity." That was enough. No shouting, no drama, just doubt. Quiet, heavy doubt. Her voice slowly lost strength. Her speech ended early. The applause was polite. Not warm. Not proud. When she walked off the stage, she didn't look at anyone. She walked straight out of the hall. I stayed in my seat. I felt no joy, no victory, only a strange calm. Later that day, Valentina found me outside. She stood beside me for a moment, then said softly, "You know, I think that night she wasn't telling the truth about you either." I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled honestly. I know. Camila stopped coming to events after that. People still spoke to her, but differently, more carefully. She was no longer the girl everyone admired, just a girl people were unsure about. As for me, nothing magical happened. I didn't become famous. I didn't get revenge applause. I didn't win love. But I got something more important. My dignity back. And I learned a lesson I will never forget. You don't need to destroy someone to stop them from hurting you. You don't need anger to achieve justice. Sometimes the strongest revenge is patience. Because when someone builds their life on lies, all you have to do is step aside and let the truth do the work for you.